allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next will be the reading of the mission.
Our mission, Macomb County Community Mental Health, guided by the values, strengths, and informed judgment we serve, provides service which promote recovery, community participation, self-sufficiency, and independence.
Thank you. Next, I'll take a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Ryan and Mark, comments or questions on the agenda? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Agenda is adopted. Next, we move on to the hearing of the public. Anybody from the public wishing to speak? You have 5 minutes. Anybody from the public? Last call. Everybody's jumping up. All right. Close the first hearing of the public. There is a second one before the end of the meeting. And we'll move on to item number 5 is the minutes. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes of the CMH full board meeting held on Wednesday, June 26, 2024.
So moved. Support.
Motion from Selena, support from Lori. Comments, questions, or changes to the minutes? Okay, hearing and seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Minutes are adopted. On item 6, take a motion to approve the minutes from the CMH Program and Budget Committee meeting held on Wednesday, July 10, 2024, and the minutes of the CMH Personnel Committee meeting held on Wednesday, July 10, 2024.
So moved. Support.
Motion from Linda, support from Selena. Comments, questions, changes? Okay, hearing and seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Next we'll move on to item 7. I'll take a motion for item 7A through D. These were items that we went over in program and budget. Take a motion to approve.
So moved. Support.
Motion from Donna, support from Linda. Are there any other comments or questions on these items? There's some more information that was given to us from questions that were asked in previous meetings, so those are in your packet. Okay, hearing and seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next we'll move on to item 7E. I would actually like to take a motion to postpone this item. We're still working on some of the finer details of the contract, and I want to get that in front of us and approve that at the same time as we approve Tracy. So I would take a motion to postpone.
So moved. Support.
Motion from Antoinette, support from Selena. Any comments or questions? I can say I've been working on this diligently for the last particularly few weeks. Today in particular, Megan as well. We're very close. We're just not there yet. So we're trying to get to the finish line.
I do have a question. Then when would the recommendation be approved?
Hopefully next full board, if not sooner, if we do a special, but next full board at the latest.
Just we're still on track, we're still moving things regardless, we have way too much to do, right?
Anybody else?
No, I do want to say thank you for being patient while we work through this process.
Of course.
It's when we're doing government and board. All right, Nick?
Just on to the meetings, recommendations of the personnel committee, public, file, we just amendments.
Yep. All right, anybody else? All right, motion and support, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Great, next we'll move on to item 8, which is receive and file. We have 2 new items. I'll start with the motion to receive and file item A on DHS portable events data overview.
So moved.
Motion from Antoinette.
Or
Support from Lori. Tracy.
This is actually the data you need a question mark point. If you remember your report, but you're required to keep like all the incidents. Do you remember Tana reviewed everything you do on? And today she also gave you because I forgot you asked something.
Tracy, could you speak up just a little bit?
Absolutely, absolutely. So as a reminder, we are required, I'll tell you anyway, we're required to report to you like these type of events and give you the overall data directly related to quality. So basically this is providing that. I just also want to remind that Temma was here last time and she talked about some of this data. You guys asked a great question and you asked for like definitions of what's a sentinel event, what's this type of event, and that was in your package too. We tried to write it in really plain language. If it's not, we welcome your feedback because it can be very cumbersome and confusing. And again, we'd love to use that document in the future, so we welcome your feedback. I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's kind of why we're receiving it. We just want you to review it and of course ask questions as you submit it.
Are there any questions for Tracy? Hearing and seeing none, I have a motion to receive and file. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next, we move on to 8B. Take a motion to receive and file CMH Communications Report for quarter 2, 2024 with airports.
To correct the past, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Report,
Motion for Antoinette, support from Laura Selena. Okay.
sorry.
Run.
If you remember, we give you reports. We have a partnership with Airworld. They, of course, are not the only ones doing stuff. We do want to report back to you on what's working and what's not working. I will try to summarize this for you, but definitely look through it if you have not already. Essentially, the good news is directly related to social media. We continue to get more followers. We also continue to get more engagement. So overall, from a Facebook standpoint, we increased from last quarter 169%, but LinkedIn is actually where our numbers are greatly increasing. So we got additional followers, so total engagement rate went up by 205%, total increase of LinkedIn clicks. So in other words, they see something and they go, I want to find out more information about that, is 331%, so we're happy with the performance. And I don't know if any of you guys, I know several of you guys follow us, but hopefully you're noticing there's like a little bit higher quality, there's like stories in there, and it's just kind of more professionally presented, and I think these numbers demonstrate that how that engagement is improving based on those efforts. It also does give you the number of media outreaches. If you notice the member report, you'll see every month I'm giving you, if we're in the newspaper, what it's about, and trying to share that with you in the upcoming news. So I just encourage you, if you haven't had a chance to read those, definitely read those. We're very proud. Michelle Ivey was featured in the Detroit News, not just herself, but as an editorial. So we're really trying to create thought leadership, if you're not familiar with that concept. So it sounds like some of you are. Essentially, you want to be in your community known as an organization or even an individual that can professionally speak on a topic, and the community seeks out your thoughts and opinions on how to implement this. So we're trying to create a bench of professional representatives. It doesn't have to be myself. In fact, it really shouldn't be myself. It should be the experts on whatever the topic is. I'm happy to answer any questions, but we just wanted to bring this to your attention of the positive direction that it's going.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Are we on Instagram?
We're not excited about our Instagram because the catch with Instagram is it's more time consuming for us because, as you know, it needs to be more interactive. So that's actually the platform we have the least number of followers on, so you can see periodically some posts, and you'll see in there some of the next initiatives, which is trying to do better at Instagram, and maybe we talked about TikTok, or maybe good to remove next door. Because the catch is, the reason why we don't move well as Instagram is our content doesn't work well on Instagram, right? So if we do TikTok, you guys want more videos, right? So then we don't have the current bandwidth for somebody to do videos. So that's kind of correct.
Okay. I do, of course, didn't read all of it, but I do like the idea of looking into how we can improve our audience on Instagram. I think that's huge. I follow some others on Instagram that support mental health, and they're doing very well. And I think that we're going to be right along with that with our LinkedIn and Facebook doing good. I know our Instagram can be right up there with it, and especially in that younger audience. So, but this is great. I'm here for it.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, we definitely need to move forward. And again, we are there, we're just not.
Yeah. We're making our.
Yes.
Anyone else? Comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor of receiving the bond, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next, item 9, resolutions, we have none. Item 10 is voucher listings. I'll take a motion to pay the bills.
Support.
Thanks, Nick. Comments or questions on the bills? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Next, we'll go to the management reports, and we'll start with the CFO, Richard Matrek. Say good things.
I like Bill.
Strong opening.
That's how we're gonna.
It's not fun, right?
Unfortunately. Now, spent a little bit of time on the May monthly financial report, quick highlights, but then I'm going to transition to a couple of other topics that are, yes, a little less pleasant, and but just to give you some perspective of where we're at. So, in the May finance report, I'm going to start on page 2. As you'll see, our revenue did pop up in April, as I mentioned last month. We did see it start to come down in May. This month, we expect it's going to come down one more time for June, right? And then our hope is in July, it'll level off. So that's, again, as our eligibles continue to decrease, it's hopefully done now. The 12 months of the redetermination process is hopefully done. We actually get that payment at the end of this week, and so maybe even as soon as tomorrow, I will know, are we seeing that that's actually happening, or does it look like it's going to be worse than we planned? So keeping our eye on that, want you to be aware that is happening. You can see that in the eligibles trend, also on page 2, just that continuous decline. Related to that, all 10 PIHPs did put together a projection. I know it was put into Tracy's memo to the board as well. Region 10 and Macomb are by far looking the best of all the 10 PIHPs throughout the state. Outside of the 2 of us, there is some fairly negative results. So as a statewide effort, all the PIHPs are advocating for another rate adjustment. So how much we would get paid per eligible. Hopefully that will happen. Hopefully that will happen in September. So if that does happen, we'd see another one of those bumps like we saw in April. We could see that bump in September. Try to keep the board informed or what we're hearing from the state on that issue. I'm going to jump forward in the finance report to page 5. On page 5, again, through the months of May, in the Medicaid program, surplus of about $12.8 million. A deficit in the Healthy Michigan program of about $1 million. Again, not unanticipated, because when we expected the loss in eligibles, we expected it to hit Healthy Michigan by far the worst. So not surprising, that's where we're seeing our deficit first. Just a quick reminder, the surplus can cover the deficit, so overall, in an okay space. The CCBHC Medicaid program is showing a surplus deficit, so how much we're able to keep as local, about $5 million. And in Healthy Michigan showing the surplus, how much we can keep about $1.6 million. So total positive there, around $6.8 million. So again, the CCBHC program is doing very well. We're financially sustainable. And I highlight that specifically because in a moment when I talk about the future of the CCBHC program, I have concerns from a financial perspective. I want to make sure that I highlight that for you. We do, again, at the end of page 5, we're planning to put a little bit more money into the risk reserve for 2024. And so we would anticipate putting in to get us up to $46 million. Again, I'm highlighting that $46 million number because when we talk about the ISF in a moment, that's an important number to understand. So we're still on track for doing that for 2024. Moving quickly over to page 6, highlights for May. In the non-Medicaid CCBHC program, we're showing a deficit of about $2.4 million. That's consistent with what all CCBHCs are seeing happen is there's not sufficient funding in the system for non-Medicaid CCBHC. We will use some of that surplus that we're generating in the Medicaid and Healthy Michigan part of CCBHC to cover that. So again, that 6.8 million positive, 2.4 negative, net positive, 4.3 approximately $4.3 million. So that's still good news for us. We are in a much better position than many other CCBHCs. Some of them are not seeing the positive on the Medicaid side, and they're seeing the negative on the non-Medicaid side. So they're actually getting tipped into funding elements to cover the CCBHC program. So thankfully, we're not in that position here in Macomb. For state general fund, you see we're about break even through the month of May, so that's good news. And then for all other local positive, we're about 4 million, primarily related to positive PHU and the NCP funds. Those are my highlights for May. So if there are any questions related to the finance report, I'm happy to try to answer those now, or I can transition into the slightly less exciting portion of the report. All right, seeing none. So I have 3 things that I'd like to touch on as it relates to the non-financial, well, the financial aid of my other report. The first one's going to be the internal service funds. The last time I came and presented to the board, I gave an update that we were concerned about the internal service fund language that was going to be included in the contract. We were concerned that the state proposed language that would artificially cap our internal service fund and would actually claw back around $23 million. As I mentioned, we were looking at putting a little bit more money in, so we could potentially claw back actually $26 million from us at the end of fiscal year 25. Since then, a few things have happened that I just want to review up to speed on. Number one, we did not get a response to our proposed language, so we did attempt to negotiate with the state. We did not get a response to that. We came and shared with the county commission some of that information. The county commission was very supportive of our position on this issue, which I want to thank obviously the commissioners and Phil for bringing this forward and supporting us, but also all of the county commissioners that were unanimous in their support for now is not the time to take funding away from CMH. So that's good. Following the commission meeting, we had to reach out from the Macomb Daily, which is Tim and Tracy's communication. That did prompt a phone call with NDHHS, so I can reach out to NDHHS. I told them that if the media is going to potentially get involved, is there any way that we can get this language fixed before it's too late? I will say NDHHS has verbally expressed their support on trying to work things out, but they came back and said, unfortunately, we can't take that language out of the contract, which is frustrating because it really puts us in an untenable position to sign a contract that would effectively say, yes, we're okay with it back to $26 million. So since then, last Friday, I also presented to the Region 10 Board of Directors the same information. They have, as I mentioned before, they've retained an attorney to review this, and the attorney did give them some step-by-step advice on what the next steps should be and what we should do. But one big piece that they wanted me to share with all of the other PIHPs is that this attorney has advised that the more PIHPs that will get together behind and take a stand together in these steps, the more powerful this will be. So he's encouraging as many PIHPs as are willing to become clients of this law firm. And so I did share the contact information with Tracy of the lawyer that we're using in Region 10. And I think one of the things that we're curious or asking for from this board is there support for us to stand firm against the department as it relates to this language. So I don't know, Tracy.
And then that information is then shared with the Corporation Council and included, what am I saying? I'm just trying to say, like, is this an option? Of course, they would want your guys' thoughts on that work. Sorry.
Can we turn the blower off? It's really, it's really hard to hear all in the blower.
Here, so here with this.
Well, a little longer.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
We shared the contact information, we had a very brief conversation with John Shepko, which is the Corporation Counsel, and had not heard back, and had not touched base on that subject, but essentially kind of that's Richard's mind kind of asked with even if you don't make a decision right now, is that we have to decide, are we just going to accept this? Are we going to continue to go to the media and share our concerns? Are we going to legally pursue options? So we're just going to bring this to your attention so you can have a discussion if you think it's appropriate for potential next steps. So it's our understanding, right, if you read the report, thank you to the efforts, just want to reiterate what you're saying to the Board of Commissioners, but do you think that caused action? Because it caused the Macomb Daily, which then caused if you notice the quote that's going to be in the paper, if it's published, is it's not going to be in our initial contract. So at least force the problem down the road, and so the actions we're doing are making a difference, and we greatly appreciate that.
Sorry, Nate, go ahead.
First, are all 10 PIHPs in agreement on this?
So at this point, we do not have formal agreements from all 10 PIHPs.
How many do we have?
So I know for a fact that Region 10, of course, we're hoping Macomb tonight. The UP is.
Well, we've already passed the resolution.
Oh, yes, from passing a resolution perspective, yes, there's agreement. And I believe all of the PIHPs were represented at the board conference where it was discussed, and the board, the CMH Association as a whole, said, yes, we're in agreement that this language is not acceptable.
Okay, so there are no PIHPs that are taking a contract. I'm not talking about whether we hire a lawyer or not, what I was talking about on the question of the language.
Correct. My understanding is in terms of our interpretation of the language, all of the PIHPs agree this is not good for us, and we don't want to do it. I'm not aware of any PIHPs that have made a formal decision of whether or not to sign the contract, which is going to be the next question.
Well, we don't have a contract for it.
So we have contract language that was proposed formally last Friday. So we do have a contract before us in terms of Tracy and I have seen it. I'm not bringing it to you right now. But there's contract language out there, and it has the offending language in it. And so as it stands, I can't recommend that we sign the contract. The question is what happens next.
And I mentioned to Tracy, this is something that traditionally we've taken the position that once we have a contract, the board either signs it or doesn't. Because it's been negotiated theoretically between the state association and the department. The Oakland County has, I was told by a former Oakland County board member, actually sent amendments back from the board to the department. I don't know if it was under CMH contract or the PIHP contract, because they're both like we are, and had success with getting them to agree to an amendment, so they approved the contract as amending it on the way back. Can you or Tracy, whoever is appropriate, double check that approach, because that seems to be, if we simply do not sign, this was an argument we had with the exec when he was threatening not to sign the contract at all. If we simply don't agree to a contract, the danger is that the state says, okay, we'll do a contract with somebody else. But if we approve a contract with an amendment, that kind of changes the dynamics. At least I think.
Yeah.
Assuming we can't, I mean, you've got a draft contract right now, right? But you don't know that anybody's approved that contract. So it's just sitting out there, right?
And Nick, can I jump in? So we do have a draft contract, but it's not our official
final here, CMH signed this agreement.
So the negotiations are still on.
That's our hope.
That's our hope. My understanding, the timeline, there's a contract negotiation meeting this Friday. And then the department desires to have contracts signed by early in August, August 1st or 2nd. So that would be actually right.
Well, the current contract expires September 30th. They're around the state fiscal year with these contracts.
That's my understanding.
Yes, that's the way it's always been up till now. So things change. And there could be interims as well, it's a different option. My other question is, you said you talked to the corporation counsel. If we were going to take legal action, have we had somebody assigned to us by corporation counsel yet?
Not yet, there's some top candidates for that person, but John has been very helpful jumping in.
Yeah, but I just wanted to know that, because we had somebody sign them and wow.
We're close to having.
It's all.
We're almost there.
Yeah, making decisions. But the other question is, what is corporation counsel's attitude as to whether or not we would be able to use them, or we would need to go to outside counsel?
So I just shared the information and had a very limited conversation with Richard there, so I don't have I wouldn't be able to see what his, I think that would be one of the follow-up items. I think we were bringing it before you guys. One is update, but also just to point out the timelines here pretty quick. And to try to get your feedback, right? Because to be fair to John Shepard of the world, if they would want your kind of input, they wouldn't want to proceed without your perspective. That's kind of what we're talking with the executive's office. That's kind of one of the next steps that they wanted to know what your guys' thoughts were. Right?
Ryan, go ahead. I'm curious, Richard, are there other, go back to what Nick was asking, other PIHPs, are they also affected by this other than the UP? Does it affect all of us? And is there a way that we can group together in order to have a better bargaining position?
Yeah, so there are 4 that are directly impacted. Macomb, Region 10, and Northern Michigan Regional Institute, the top portion of the lower peninsula. Meaning they have dollars that if they sign this would get clawed back to the city. It does impact all the PIPs from the standpoint of, in the future, the ability to maintain adequate risk reserves. So all of them have some sort of stake in the situation. And so I do believe there's the opportunity for at least a few of us to band together. And I don't think anybody kind of speaking for them or not for them, right? I don't think there's anybody that would say, no, we think Macomb is wrong, or we think Region 10 is wrong, right? They would stand back and watch and say, we agree with them, but we don't have a particular stake at this point in time. Maybe the position they decide to take that. I think the biggest thing is, understanding what our options are, right, in terms of from a legal remedy perspective, and what steps we should be taking between now and September 30 to make sure we don't compromise whatever options we have to move forward without losing this money. So that would be my request / recommendations to use counsel that is common across all PIPs that are wanting to potentially seek this, which is again kind of to the question of seeking outside counsel would be my recommendation.
And I would just have a caveat to for corporation counsel to figure out what that would look like, and if they were supportive. But again, it's my perception that would be under your kind of, yes, we want to further pursue that, or at least find out more information, but the timelines would be pretty quick.
The other related question that could go ahead, what Nick recommended is amending the contract. Is the draft contract, which we received on Friday, is that consistent with what other PIHPs received?
My understanding is one copy was distributed to all PIPs.
So it is the same. So could we propose language that we would be agreeable with, but also share that language with the PIHPs in addition to maybe hire an outside legal counsel. In other words, do that as well. And then if we all agree to the same language, then I think it helps our bargaining position. Yes.
Yeah, if I could, just to Ryan's point, if we were going to go the route of amending the contract, sending it back through the amendment, it would be, I think, it would put us in the best position if the other matter was the same thing, or if as many of them as possible did the same thing. So the proposed language in that, we should probably circulate among the other non-PIHP. If we decide to go this route, I think we have to have some behind-the-scenes conversation about how to do this. If we were going to do this, it seems to me that the more of us that do that, the better we are, because the department can say to one PIHP, if you don't want to contract with us, we'll go somewhere else. They can't say that to 10 PIHP. It's just not practical.
And especially if we all have, every PIHP has already agreed. We've given them an easy golden bridge of retreat. So, yeah, can we do that?
I am concerned that a PIHP, well, we don't have the final one boards yet. Draft. So we're timing, because I would be concerned if 8 PIHPs or 6 PIHPs sign the contract as is without even proposing an amendment, because then we've got a different dynamic. Linda?
Something that's not computing for me, and maybe it just doesn't make sense, but if it's so bad, which it does, why aren't others joining? Why aren't others having the same cry that we have? So I know that all the regions are very different, so some are impacted differently by this exact language that you propose. So are there any that would be harmed by our change, and that's why they're not jumping on? I'm just like, have a little wariness about why it's not a joint kind of effort.
Yeah.
And it's,
I can, this is my perception, right? This is my perception. We as a PIHP system have been fighting with the department for close to 5 years now. So since 2018, there's been change on change, pandemic, and there have been so many changes. I believe that there are some PIHPs that are tired. And if it's not going to have an immediate negative impact on them right now today, they're tired of fighting. And that's my perception.
And I would agree with that. Like the statement that would summarize it for me is you will hear comments like, you're right, that is important. We're glad you're looking at that or whatever. And if we can support you in any way, which really means not support as in actions, but we appreciate their efforts. And to be fair, every region has their own dynamics, has their own occurrences, right? So they know their board and what they would, buy into or not buy into. And yeah. So this, for some of them, they're in a stance where they aren't fighting a ton. And there's a ton to fight, right? But that's just kind of where they're at.
Linda, are you all set?
thanks.
Donna, go ahead.
Yeah, I know that a lot of the money was money we needed to pay back, and then there was future money. Can you remind us how much it was?
In terms of how much we would need to
Pay back, and it would affect future money.
So if we put in the amount that we plan to put in this year, the amount that we would potentially get clawed back was about $26 million. So that was the funding that we could keep in the IS, that we believe we rightfully have saved and should keep in the ISF, that under this new language we would have to return. And my biggest concern in the future is that will put our reserves, our ISF, at a level that could be depleted so quickly that we wouldn't have enough time to react, which is what happened
uncertainty, especially with the declining enrollment, which we don't know how or when that's going to stop. The potential future of different programming that may or may not look the same today as it will in November or 2 years from now, right? So things can start looking significantly different. This is our safety net. This is what helps me sleep at night. It's the money that we have.
And if also, I just want to add, if you remember, the ones who were here in 2016, 17, if you remember, we were 20 million, right, short? 7.5%, that's what they used to, is about 20 million. So if we really had a 2016, 2017 issue, within a year, we'd be gone, and we'd be completely broke. And as you guys know, that's not really a proper reserve. So that's also our argument, is we're not happy with 7.5 because it's not actually really sound for Macomb, right? Because we already know it's not. And then also, we don't want you to take back. There's two elements there that we're not in agreement with.
So what did you say we had in the ISF now? Was it 40?
We would be at the end of this year, we're projecting to be at 46 million.
But they would take 26, so we'd be down to 20.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Remember this reason. I think it's important to reiterate what I say, that this reserve also protects them, because under shared risk, under the managed care system, if we are required to expend, really required to expend money on this contract, if we're required to expend dollars to meet medically necessary needs, then, and we go over what they've provided us, we're responsible for the first X% of that overflow, and then they are responsible for the balance of that. So if we have a smaller reserve, their liability kicks in earlier if that happens. Now, the way they've done that in the one instance I'm aware of is they said, well, we're gonna leave you and find somebody else who's going to take over the PIHP in a different system, and that's their right, but they're still on the hook for those dollars, and that's problematic. My question to you, which is, you said there were 4 PIHPs that would face immediate clawback. The other 6 wouldn't immediately face clawback, but could someday, for the same reason you just outlined. Of the 4, if you know, what's the range of their clawbacks? Are there some less, some more?
Yeah, some less, some more. So because of the size difference, I believe the UP is probably in the neighborhood of $8 to $10 million clawback, which for them is quite substantial. For the Northern Michigan regional entity, last I knew it was between 6 and 8 million. Of course, 26 million for us. And then Region 10, I think it's going to be $35 million range. So, so statewide, we're in the $70 million, $75 million range. What I will say, and obviously every PIHP situation is different, but my understanding from a Region 10 perspective is that, as the CFO for Region 10, I am not concerned that the department's going to try to contract with somebody else. From a practical standpoint, it can't be done.
Well, the reality is, the one time they did this, they really didn't contract with somebody else, they just recreated the PIHP. So the threat, I think, is there, but is minimal, and that just reinforces the argument that they're on the hook for it.
So my takeaway is, I think is similar to what Tracy and I were planning on doing. The takeaway is we plan to negotiate as best we can for language that currently exists. Again, at Friday's meeting, if there's an opportunity to present amended language for approval, we would try to do that. And then it really comes down to then if those efforts fail, how quickly are we able to kind of pivot and move forward. And ideally, I would love to be in a position where we've vetted this with core council, we know which path we're going to go, either external or non-external. Because I expect it'll be 2 to 3 weeks before we're going to have to identify what next steps are at the latest.
And for me personally, I've repeated this, I'm going to continue to repeat it. This is a hill that I will die on, whatever I have to do as board chair here, as a county commissioner here. I think I scared the commissioners to death when I told them, hey, if we lose this money at CMH and we're negative, guess where that money has to come from? The county general fund. And they all perked up and went, oh, we don't want to do that. So, I mean, between them and us and the county executive's office, they obviously have the same worry that the board of commissioners do for the same reason. You know, I'm all for any approach necessary, any and all approaches necessary, work the contract angle, work the legal angle, work the media angle, or work whatever angle we possibly can. That's my personal opinion. We try to do whatever we can to keep that money here.
Agree with everything Phil says. Lead into this as hard as you can. I don't know where everyone else stands on it, but I think it'd be really important to let all the other PIHPs know immediately to reject this proposal. And in fact, I think it might even be worthwhile for negotiations that we as a board reject tonight. Let them know we are not going to agree to this under any circumstances, but we will entertain a counter that you can draft and maybe you can bring us at a later time. If that would be helpful for you, for us to reject it, I'm happy to, I think we could entertain it obviously at the board. Meanwhile, other than the negotiation part, hiring legal counsel, I mean, it's going to take a lot of really, attorney expense to reach, $26 million. And so I don't see any downside risk on it. It's just 1 year, right? We're skinny dipping naked now at the 7.5%. So we can't allow this to be about that.
So the advice that's been given to the Region 10 board through their attorney would be, don't necessarily come out forcefully and reject the language today, right? Negotiate in good faith for as long as the state's willing to negotiate in good faith. So keep negotiating. If at some point in time the state says, this is it, no more, right, then it's at that point that then we would ask you to formally make a decision to sign or not to sign. Of course, recommend not if it has been. And then from there, wait to see what the state's response is. And there are legal protections that we can put in place to ensure that our consumers are harmed. So that's the most important thing. Region 10 has, and of course, I would say the same thing here. Our most important thing is we need to protect our financial stability while making sure we're not harming consumers and making sure that that's an appropriate balance. We believe there's a path forward that will do both. We'll be able to continue to operate and not accept this like.
I'm curious, what's the downside of rejecting it, Richard? Is there one? Because the counter offer is a rejection.
In terms of rejecting it right now?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's just more of the positioning with the department. I think there is advantages. The closer we get to September 30, before we formally reject anything, again, makes it more likely that the state will continue to work with us, right, instead of looking somewhere else. Not that I really think they have an option to look somewhere else.
Are you saying time's on our side, not to drag it out, but they would be under the pressure on us?
I believe so. I think time is on our side that until they say that this is our best and final offer, per se, in the contract, and the closer we are to 9/30, the better. So.
Lori, did you?
I just wanted to, I'm in full agreement with Phil and Brian. Being somebody whose son was affected back in 2016, 2017, which really brought me to, I want to be on this board, with the severe cutbacks that were put in place for us, is I'm in total agreement. We gotta do whatever we need to do to protect our consumers.
Or could we, maybe just so, Richard and I are clear with kind of potential next steps, just talking first about the legal route, we can wrap back around to Corporation Counsel, and we can explore what would that look like from an outside counsel perspective, right? Like what would be the next steps? So then if it's needed, right, we can pull the trigger fast and we can give you an update if it's okay with you about what Corporation Counsel, where we're at, like are they on the same page or whatever the next steps from your perspective. We just want to be ready to shoot if it's needed, essentially.
I simply want to see all the talking points on what the repercussions of not signing the contract should be before voted on.
Sure.
And then can I just make sure, because we've had a couple conversations, that is the legal route, so we will do that if that's what you so desire. The media route is slightly different, right? We don't want it to be September 30th. It's too late. So we have this Macomb Daily article coming out, I don't know when, I'm assuming in the next couple of days. That being said, that is an opportunity to reach out to lots of, and I think you guys know this, we have some good relationships with the media who are adamant about mental health services. So we kind of want to get your feedback or kind of projection on that, because that is not probably going to be received well. There are downfalls of that, but we would be positioned as that comes out to reach out to several of the local television stations, and we would be very surprised if they would not jump on that. But I need you guys all to understand what that means, right? Like there are some pitfalls in doing that. So far, that has been successful for us in the way that now it sounds like they've backed off a little bit just after being pressured just a tiny bit. So I guess what I just want to get your, it's okay, Phil, you're kind of like your guys' thoughts.
Yeah, I don't think there's any negative to the press approach.
Okay.
I do think that I don't, in terms of Ryan's suggestion, I don't know that we have an offer in front of us to reject or to amend. My sense is that, one, we are as a board, who's going to be, you and Tracy, or you, who's the negotiating table?
I'm planning to attend on Friday. I don't know if I'm technically.
Yeah, but no, so the way that it was further explained, you have representatives. So often we're invited and we absolutely will speak, but traditionally it is the state association and identified people that are kind of speaking on the behalf, because otherwise it gets chaotic, if that makes sense. Well, again, those people are the traditional ones that kind of lead it along, we feed them information, and Richard, jump in if I misspeak, but let's say someone says something, there's a question, we're allowed to say, hey, and get clarification or that type of thing during the conversation.
What I'm trying to figure out is who do we send the message to that is negotiating on our behalf that there's a serious risk to any contract proposal that doesn't include language, or that does include language that requires us to qualify. We've allowed the state to qualify. I want to do that and instruct. I don't think we want to reject, because then you're put in the position of being accused of not negotiating with pay if we're still in negotiation, and that's what I understand. So I want to be negotiating with faith, but I want to send the signal to our negotiators and to the state that this is very important that we have. It's new language you're proposing, the state association is proposing.
So the NDHHS has proposed modifications or new language that causes this issue. We have counter-proposed different language that would avoid this issue, and they have not responded to our counter-proposal.
Either way.
They've just added their own language into the last draft.
And I think that it's important that we somehow, I'm not sure I know the process maybe it is, just a motion, to tell the state association, to tell the state that that the new language being proposed, correct me if I'm wrong, that the new language being proposed by the state of Michigan, the department, is unacceptable. So I will move. I'll second.
Do we need another motion like this if we already have the resolution from this board? Or will that be enough? I mean, well, I'll keep piling on. I'll keep doing motions all night to say no.
I think we would direct this, maybe specifically to Joe Sedlock as the spokesperson on behalf of the PIHPs. That might be the
Yeah, I
right-
think we can, if there's maybe my suggestion would be, Richard and I connect, we share with you the alternative language we're suggesting. Then maybe you make a motion, maybe prepare something we can figure out to say, as a board, this is the language that we will support. And I can formally share that with.
The reason I didn't do this in my motion, and I was trying to be very specific, is I want to say that the state, what you proposed is not acceptable. Your alternative language would be acceptable, that's fine, but there may be something else. So I want to leave the negotiating wiggle room just to make it clear that what the state is proposing is not acceptable, and therefore we need negotiated language. That, I think, leaves the ability to negotiate language, which may not be exactly what we've offered at this point, but what would be offered at this point is still on the table.
I hear you, but I'm kind of clarifying the same question Phil is, because we can bring, and they do already have it, but we can bring our resolution, which basically says that. Like we're saying this language is wrong, so we can I can formally send it to the negotiation and say, we're making sure you're informed that our board has already said they will not be supportive of the current language. I mean, I can do anything you guys want, I think you guys already did a good job of explaining in that resolution.
But I'm not sure the state is hearing. So I'm just, at least that's the impression I'm getting. I'm not at the negotiating table, so I don't know what the dynamic is there. I have to rely on people who are at the negotiating table. And so my question is, do we need to say it stronger? That basically says this language is not acceptable to this PIHP. As opposed to saying we don't want to do that. There's a difference.
I'm up with lots of,
Yeah.
but I'm kind of.
Yeah, I think that could be achieved by directing Tracy or I, she's during the negotiation session on Friday, to reinforce the resolution that's already been passed. And saying, we want to make sure that the department's hearing what this says, and that this language is not acceptable.
Well, I don't think I think you guys are already doing that. I was just looking for a way to reinforce what you're doing with the board. But if you don't feel it's helpful.
It never hurts to say it again. So we can say it again, right?
Because I was sitting next to Nick, I think I heard a distinction that isn't being discussed. I thought he said to direct it to the association.
Well, I want to direct it to the people who are negotiating, which is the association. You folks aren't formal negotiators at this point, right?
You're not formally, but we do attend, essentially.
So we haven't done any communication to this. I mean, we kind of talked about it or something, but to have the association know this board's.
No, we sent the resolution to the association.
Oh, they have the resolution.
And I just want to clarify, it is the association, but the way Richard jumped in, I don't want to miss it anyway, is the reason why he's mentioning a Joe Sedlock. It's because that is one of the CEOs in other regions that's been identified as the negotiating representative, and there's another individual. So although it is the state association, there's a small group of identified individuals who are, I don't know if that helps clarify.
Well, they're taking lead on it.
Because like Bob is going to advocate, but Bob's not going to show up to a contract negotiation or even anybody at the state association and try to negotiate on our behalf. That's helpful.
Well, now I'm confused.
I'm
Who's negotiating with the state?
Hold on, Ryan. Okay, Nick, go ahead.
Who are the people at the negotiating table?
identified representatives.
Yeah, so my understanding is Joe Sedlock is the identified PIHP lead for negotiation, and I believe Brandon Fleesmore is the backup if Joe is not available. So that would be the PIHP CEO for mid-state is the lead, and the PHP-CDO for Southwest Michigan is the backup. And then the rest of us are commonly attended. We commonly tell them if we have concerns that are maybe unique to us, like neither one of them are standalone PHPs, neither one of them are like Macomb or Oakland or Detroit Lane, right? So Macomb does have our own unique issues within the contract that we make sure that we articulate. And so I'll speak up, or Tracy or someone else will speak up in those instances. But yeah, so my understanding, the two identified negotiators are Joe Sedlock and Brad Casemore.
Okay, so why don't we, I forward our resolution to those two individuals.
Well, we would, but I think what my motion is intended to be, and maybe I need to restate it with the help of my second motion, is that the Macomb County Board, the Macomb County Community Mental Health Board instructs the negotiating party on the PIHP contract that the state proposed language on ISL is unacceptable, and that we instruct our interim CEO and our CFO to carry that message through to those parties. That means you tell whoever is at the table and you tell the state. And that's my motion.
It's second. The other part of that motion, I think, Nick, was not just that the language is unacceptable, but we would be open to the language you have already proposed and other possible language, right? Isn't that like,
Yeah, I don't know, but
you don't need to say the motion, but
I don't need to say that. We just need to say what you're proposing is not acceptable.
Richard and I will do a memo, essentially, just so we have record of it, with language similar to this, as long as you are all in agreement and passes. And then I can also attach the resolution, so we'll just be very formal, so there's no confusion on that, if that is helpful.
the reason I support it, I think it helps Joe and whoever's at the table to have, and we as a board have this strength, and not only we have this resolution, we're directing that we won't agree to it. So it shows, he actually gives them more leverage.
So yeah, I can show the draft language to you. I'm sorry for interrupting, but right now, so sorry. The draft language to you guys, and you can.
Well, I made a motion, so.
Yeah, I think I got it.
Support. Are there any comments or questions on that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Right, so my
Next.
other.
That's why we are.
Unfortunately, it's all contract language related, so the timeline is similar. So the other ray of sunshine has to do with the CCBHC program. And so we have two things that have happened in the last month, and I know Tracy has included some of that in her communication as well. So number one is the state is planning, or at least has signaled their plan to approve 3 new CCBHC sites in Macomb County. And that presents 2 different problems from my perspective, from a financial perspective. Number one has to do with, of course, fighting over staff, which Tracy has mentioned in the past, and obviously the potential financial implications of trying to serve the same consumer. So even take the clinical, potentially negative aspects off the table, we have the financial issues. To complicate that further, the state also provided contract language last Thursday that was included, or is planning to be included in the PIHP contract, that directs the PIHP on what we can and can't do to manage care within our community. In terms of, for example, it removes, or it would remove our ability to do pre-authorizations before services. It would require us to potentially TCO with another CCDH site as the state sanctioned crisis service providers. It would require us to potentially have some of our SUV network, which is a whole different set of providers, available to the CCBHCs for DCO. There has been no opportunity to actually negotiate this language. It was presented last week, and so the first time we will actually, and potentially the only time we will have to negotiate this language will be on Friday. So I have similar concerns that if I were to try to boil this down from a financial risk perspective, the state is still telling us, like the CIP, you are at risk for the Medicaid population in your community. And so we have, again, that financial risk that we're going to have to pay for services. But we're going to let 3 other organizations in your community make the decision of who gets served, how they get served, and you're not going to be able to control that anymore. So you're a financial risk, but you no longer have operational control or say in how services are being provided. That, again, puts us in a position where the amount of money that we have in reserves may not be and likely would not be sufficient in the bad times. So similarly, my opinion from a financial perspective is this is language that we cannot accept as proposed by the department. Neither would I recommend that we sign the contract as written with the department for this language. Neither would I enter into or recommend that you enter into an agreement with any new CCBHC sites until this language issue is dealt with. And so that's my second ray of sunshine, that we have to figure out the CCBHC program because it's now become a both financial and clinical problem.
I just want to reiterate, this was emailed to, thank goodness we have amazing staff on hand, but not to the people who would do any type of contract negotiation. It was emailed last minute. They then shared that contract with the new CCBHCs as a done deal and presented it to them with zero, like when we say negotiation, and there are the outlines in there. The motives are good, and I just want to reiterate, having a more CCBHC is not a bad thing. It's that they're not strategic, they're not well planned, they're all within a few mile radius, so it's just bad care. And there's a huge financial risk, including some of the details talking about how they get to determine the geographic preference and what that looks like, and the language is not clear, so there'll be constant arguments over, is that your personal mind? Because it's not, the language is so vague that how you interpret and how I interpret is going to be different. And I don't know about you, but we have good providers. We don't want to create an adversarial relationship with any of our providers. The 3 that have applied are amazing and do great things. But it's creating a scenario where we have to manage the money, right? And we have to do all these things. So I would just want to reiterate from my perspective also, if we're not able to negotiate, that is a second reason not to be in agreement with what they're offering.
I'm just curious about, someone has to be writing this language into the contract. And I'm just wondering, who? I mean, do we know exactly who up in the state, writes this kind of language in it? It obviously can't be someone that's actually doing service, because it's not the best service for the people that are receiving our services. So, I mean, who writes this kind of language? Because it's obviously not the best way to treat people that we serve.
Yeah, so I'm more than happy.
I mean, maybe you don't know, but I'm just wondering. I mean, who writes that kind of language that is contrary to the best way that we serve the people, that need our services the most?
Here's my perspective on why the contract language is getting written the way that it is, right? So it's less about the who, but the more the why. What I have seen over the last 3 years is that the department, as MDHHS, gets reorganized and then reorganized again and reorganized again, right? We now have this part of the department that's responsible for CCBHC. And we have this part of the department now that's responsible for children. And we have this part of the department that's responsible for state facilities. And this part of the department that's responsible for the IEP population. And then self-determination, we have, I'm gonna say, a dozen different silos now at the department that says, oh, well, you know, we care about this part of what the PIHP does, or we care about this part of what the CMH does. And there's nobody at the department, probably since Tom Renwick left, there's nobody in the department that pulls it all together and says, okay, but we still have to have a meaningful, viable system of care that takes all the dollars and manages them appropriately and makes sense. And that's what we've lost. And so now we have people that are like, well, this is what I need in this contract without looking at the bigger picture. And so unfortunately, this has been happening now for a few years, but it's all coming to a head now, it seems like. It's like finally they're like, well, we're gonna try to make it happen. And so it's at this point in time, the only point, as long as I worked with the PIHP system, which started in 2007, it's the only time that I feel like we've gotten to the point where this is where we need to draw the line in the sand. It's too much, no more.
So it's a consequence of each little piece
That's,
writing in their own little.
that is my opinion.
And I would agree with that. I think there's a little bit of a dynamic because you don't have somebody who's been there for an extended period of time. A majority of the humans are really good humans who are trying to do the right thing. But they've not worked in on CMH. Like in other words, that's who, and again, they're good ideas, they're good thoughts, their motives are good. But if you've never, they just don't have the experience, and then of course that global picture of when I say A, an agreement and a contract, what does that mean? Like there's basic contract fundamentals that are missing. Like to dictate to us who we must contract with.
Up until now, we've been talking about this mainly in the sense of putting these so close together has two fundamental problems. One is you don't have them spread out where they need it, not considering geography. And two, potential cannibalization, particularly with staff, by having these facilities so close together. We have not been discussing it in terms of the potential financial impact up until now. So I've got to kind of take a minute to absorb that. But I hear what you're saying. One of the things we haven't done, we've written a letter, Tracy's written a letter, and collaboration with Phil as chair and me as chair of the policy and legislation committee, expressing these concerns. And it's a good thing, I think. But we didn't really get into the financial ramifications because it didn't look like this was going to be a contractual issue up until now. It looked like it was going to be a policy issue up until now. Is that fair?
Yeah, well, with this new language that Richard was referencing, we literally found out it on a Friday morning.
Okay.
So yes.
That's what I'm saying. So this is kind of a new piece to something objective. One of the things I don't believe we've done is sit down and talk with the three entities that are talking about opening facilities here.
We have. They are our partners. And I actually think they're great partners, right? So we've been honest with them this whole time way, saying we're not sure how this is going to pan out, but we want to be supportive of you. And again, we're supportive of CCBHCs. Here's our concerns. We do have one coming up with the one who appears to be more open to this concept. Because as you know, we got to fight these battles, but we still have a plan, right? So we're talking with them about, hey, we don't need 3 CCBHCs in Clinton Township. What about, would you consider, and at least in our initial conversation, they were open to that, would you consider another location, even if you don't have it right now? So that's our next conversation, is trying to be proactive. You're a good provider, you do good things, can we negotiate? The disclaimer to that is when they submitted their application as a CCBHC, it is by site. So that would still cause glitches, but at least if we're both on the same page with that organization, if they were willing to do that, we could go together to the state and say, can you consider approving this location, right, instead of this location or something like that. I don't know how that'll pan out, but that's fair, because to be fair, what's great about them is they understand the concept of cannibalism. They're not denying it's not true, right? They're good providers who understand our system of care, that they know that having that close of radius is going to be problematic.
Okay, so now that we got into this financial, which is a little different than what we've been talking with them about, the geography is still an important factor, but it's not the only one anymore. I think, and maybe we need to take this offline and have some conversation. I need to understand, because the way the CCBHC model was created at the federal level, which we all loved, and they did, was in some of the CCBHCs were CMHs, and some of the CCBHCs were not. Personally, I like doing it through the CMHs because that's clear, more highly reasoned. But the feds allow them to do it both ways, and the feds had to allow them to do it both ways, because not all states have the Michigan system of CMHs, they do it differently. So they have to go to private nonprofits rather than going through the state entity. In those areas in which the state created both the pilot and the demonstration systems, CCBHCs that were not CMHs within just on the financial, where they created those CCBHCs, the private nonprofits. What sort of problems have materialized that support your state's concerns about the managed care system, finance it? Hasn't happened yet.
So I have to be very careful because there's only 2 counties in which a non-CMHSP CCBHC currently exists. So that's in Oakland County and in Wayne County. So those 2 counties have this situation, right? And both of those counties have chosen to manage that situation differently. So there are 2 separate and very unique examples to use, and I don't know if they translate to any other counties in the state of Michigan. So if I were to talk about those issues, I think there are issues in both of those counties that are financial in nature.
And are those systems different than what the state is proposing to put into the contract language?
Yeah, this new contract language would make the financial risk even higher.
For both Oakland and Detroit?
Yes, because it takes away the PIHP's authority and ability to manage risk.
So in Oakland and Detroit, Wayne, they have worked out differently, but have worked out a system to manage risk with a private nonprofit CCBHC operating within their jurisdiction. They've got a different system than even what the state proposing the state obviously overtake.
Correct. So you have the current Wayne County system, you have the current Oakland County system, and you have the new proposed state system, and all 3 of those are very different.
And what is Oakland and Detroit Wayne saying about this kind of we just got it.
So I don't know. I know there have been some discussions between the CEO, but very, very limited. I don't even know if Tracy's received any of it yet. So I hear in that there is negative feedback that this related to this language. I have not heard a single PIHP say, "Oh yeah, this is great," right? So that's definitely not happening. In terms of the amount of time to organize a response, there has not been enough time to organize a response.
I would just note that if we took those 3 PIHP, Detroit Wayne, Oakland, and Medicaid, not Medicaid population, but the total mental health population in the state.
So I can tell you that from the conversations that I've had with the other, my counterparts, the chief financial officers, they are not supportive of the language as proposed because of the financial risk. Whether that translates to their CEOs and whether that translates to their boards, time will tell.
Any other questions, comments for Richard on this one?
I think I've done it.
Just aim if you had more. Thank you, Richard.
Come by.
Now we'll turn it over to Tracy for her update.
So because we've already belabored
Yes.
this, I would just highly recommend, if you haven't already, is to read the board report, because that will reiterate some of the same things that Richard said, but there's also other subjects that I don't, just to save time, that I think if you just read that, that will give you a good flavor. I think the only thing that I just want to make sure you read is the workday implementation has been evolving. County finance has been diligently working on moving forward on that. But I want to draw your attention to the fact that if we don't have a final compliance report by October 31st, we will lose up to $200,000. If we do not give them something with, and just to be clear, without having an extension, so I should have backed up. So this was due June 30th. We weren't able to meet that expectation. We asked for an extension way many, many months ago because we knew it was going to be. We got until July 31st. We have already warned them we're going to need more time, but they're not currently granting that, but we will try to advocate for it as long as possible. As soon as those official extensions end, hopefully they won't, but if they did, then we have up to 120 days after, and if we do not give them the report, they will keep the up to $200,000. If we're able to remedy it in those timeframes, they will just hold back the up to $200,000. Does that make sense? Worst case scenario, it's October 31st, and the state says, too bad, we've already given you multiple extensions, we lose $200,000. So we just want to draw your attention to that fact. And the county is aware, we've made diligent efforts and will continue to make diligent efforts, but this is the first, due to that, the situation with the financials, the first large negative impact to us. Other things have just been, you're not compliant, you have to do this, and you're getting on the bad list versus actual monetary penalties. So it's the only thing I really want to draw your extra attention to. And because I feel like today has been just a negative. I just have to feel the kid. I was like, I gotta do something. So some of the positives, if you didn't notice it last week in the workforce update, we reminded everybody that we've been on a suggestion box that's been there forever. We moved the location, so it's at the top of the page. And I encourage, like, please use it, right? What's great is the first day, I think I got 5 suggestions, and 3 were really, really good. Like, what I mean by that is they weren't, like, just attacking someone. They were like, hey, we've heard about this, and here's why I think this could be better. Then I sent out a response to say, hey, I got these, this is great, thanks for responding, and encouraged them again, and I think I got 9 more. And again, they were actually, I'm just being honest, there's not all are positive solution focused, but most were appreciative of the opportunity to give feedback, and I think they gave some good feedback, so that's a positive. And then the last, if you haven't noticed, I did just to make it convenient, if you go to our intranet, any of our staff at any time can make an appointment with me just by simply clicking. I did it because when I've said that in the past, kind of with the same anonymous, I'm just trying to make it convenient for you. So I'm not saying that's going to dramatically change our culture, but the motive is that will send a message, at least, of transparency. I've only had one take me up on it so far. But it was still a great conversation to have that I would not have had the opportunity to have if I had not done it. So I guess I wanted to end on that because I see those positive things. But so you're well-informed board, again, just please read because there's some other really important information that Richard didn't review in an effort to give you guys a break.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions for Tracy and comments? Feedback? No? Okay. We'll move on to other possible agenda items. 2 reminders. We will have programming and budget here Wednesday, August 14th at 6 o'clock, and we will have full board here as well on August 28th at 6 o'clock. I did check out the boardroom when we were there last week. They are making progress, so fingers crossed we can be back at our normal location in September, but I will let you all know as soon as we know. Okay, provider comments? All right. Because I turned this way.
We just need some good news, just a little bit of good news. I got a piece of mail yesterday, and it had one of our board members on it. It was Dana, congratulations on the Macomb County Bar Association president. So, congrats. Let's go, Dana. Thank you.
Something that I think is pretty cool. We have not Macomb County, unfortunately, but Oakland County, the resident that graduated from the University of Michigan and now is in LA, created a short film on mental health awareness. It's called A Penny in the Sky. He's already getting like actors involved and everything, but just to create more awareness of the struggle of having a mental health issue and just suicidal thoughts and things like that. And I just thought that was really, really great of him being in this area, you know, and just focusing on awareness and breaking the stigma of mental health. So I thought it was really cool. I posted it on my Facebook page, so if any of you are on Facebook, check it out. It's not out yet, but he is like getting his actors together, so I thought it was really great.
Very nice. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Provider comments? Any providers wishing to comment? Nobody jumped up. Okay. Hearing of the public. Anybody from the public wishing to be heard? Anybody from
You know, I have a provider question, sorry. Does anyone know where Sean is? I miss him, is he okay?
There was an email.
I sent out an email a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fine, married, good, baby. He's good.
He's busy. Now hearing of the public. 5 minutes, you have 5 minutes to give us your name.
Oh, that's longer than I would
All right, you have 2.5.
First thing, thank you so much. First thing, I just wanted to stimulate the conversation. I don't know if you guys have talked about it, dealing with it, addressing it, because I don't know, so I thought I'd come and ask. And basically, talking about stimulating interest in financial literacy at the provider level for our consumers. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and money was a major league issue with me. And as a result, it got a little bit better over time, obviously. And my background was in finance and financial services for many, many, many years. A number of certifications, number of licenses, federal, etc. And I'm also a resident here in Macomb and a person in long-term recovery. And one of the things since 2008, we've implemented I call it money management training, but it's basically a financial literacy training process. And a couple of things it deals with. It talks about curbing, because money has been a trigger for some people. We talk about how to curb that. But also we want to address credit, because as you know, as you go through this process, you've lost a lot. And you're trying to get back a lot. But there's a process to do so. Also, in 13 and 14, I had the opportunity of working through CARE and servicing the Salvation Army in Mount Clemens. So I've had some experience in this area, in this particular, but I've done a lot in Detroit and other parts of the country as well. So I'm basically feeling that this to have a discussion. You know, what's the process? Is it on the table? Is it a thought? Is it, where are you? And then maybe have some dialogue along the way. So since we've been doing this for so long, we have some patience as a part of this process. And trust me, I understand from your role, but I think it's significant, and I can give you a lot of statistics and whole history and all kind of stats and so forth, but I don't think that we have enough time within the 5 minutes. So I heard the young lady wants to hear the president tonight, so I'm going to get out there.
Anybody else wish to address this story?
Just another reminder, August 10th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And Wednesday, whatever else I'm concerned.
being no other public comment, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Before I even finish, support, all in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.